Well, things didn't go straight quite to plan yesterday. I did a lot later video yesterday than I would have normally done. So you saw all the things I bought. So it was a mid-afternoon one really. But and then I did some work. I had an idea. I thought, oh, this could speed things up, and I can actually get. I don't know. I decided to spray paint the cardboard. It has just about worked, but it took forever to dry. I couldn't do anything else. It was all I could have to wait for it to dry. But I'll show you. Painted it blue. It's obviously just the first coat. Oh, well, it's the base coat. But what I did is I speckled it with a plastic bag. So I quite like the effect really. And I think once we've painted it up and added a few little highlights, it'll take the sheen off it a bit, and I think it's going to be alright. So obviously in there it's going to be all done, and we've got to paint up and everything there. I'd like to have got those here, but I can actually hide those in. So with a colour on there. Yeah, so that's all I did on that. That was all I did all day. I must admit, I spent a lot of time actually also looking at the stuff I'd bought and playing records and things. Yeah, so when I'm at my happiest really, dreaming, you know, looking at the old Mr. Men cards and remember those stories, Mr. Tickle and Mr. Bump, Mr. Nosy, and the gentleman off, what was his name? Can't remember his name now. Off Dad's Army. I think he did the voiceover, and I can just remember a lovely feeling, a lovely glowy feeling inside my soul. Really beautiful. And I did lots of other things, and I can just see Auntie Tina walking towards me. She's going to open the door any second now. Oh no, she's not. I know what she's doing. She's got left something in the on the veranda and the patio, so she's just getting that. But I've got what have I got? I forgot what I'm talking about now. Oh yes, and one thing I did do is I remembered the comic book I bought. This one here. I looked through it and I suddenly realised that I had that bought for me, and it must have been T, because I met T in 1988 when I was 18, and she bought it me for probably that Christmas, because they're usually a year ahead. In 1988 you'd have bought 89, and this was a big bumper one. And I always remember I opened it. I'm sure this is a true memory. I can't remember, it was at our house, but I know it was either my dad or T's dad looking at me to say, bloody hell, what's he got a comic for? You know, they're not even superhero ones, but I love them. I love the artwork. I love the simple stories. And the thing with it, these got me actually reading. These were the things that got me reading, because first of all I could look at the pictures and then I started reading the words, and that's what got me started, you know. And then it made me realise that if I didn't understand a word, I didn't have to really, it just wasn't important. I could move on and I could get enough information, and that's how I learned to read, and that's how I read now. I actually, it's weird really. I actually guess a lot of words. Like I said, names, I actually completely make names up. I've said this before. It's always fun because it's very hard to talk to other people about a book I like, because they are the characters. I don't know who they're talking about. Anyway, so but yeah, it reminded me of two things. It reminded me when I was 12, and I was actually I'd gone to hospital with constipation, and there was a boy in the bed next to me, and he was doing cartoon strips, and I started to do them. Two things I remember looking at him and thinking, God, he's really good at it. I'm not as good as him. And also I can remember the embarrassment, and it wasn't until years later when I realised, sometimes as a child I think you recognise a reaction in an adult, but don't understand what it is, and then you have an epiphany as an adult when you suddenly realise what it was. Well, it was all to do with hospital radio, and they came round saying, would you like a song played, and we'll mention your name and we'll play the song. And remember, I had constipation, And the song I chose that year, it was a very, very big song at the time, was, I can't remember the name of the band now. Stranglers, I think it was. Was it Stranglers? Anyway, it was Golden Brown by the Stranglers, yeah. And she sort of smirked and smiled and walked away. And as she walked away, I could see that she was, you know, she had found something funny. And of course, Golden Brown was just exactly what I wanted to happen, and I think they wanted to do as well. Anyway. And so, yes, and that was a memory. But I remember then doing these cartoons, these comics, and I did them for quite a few months. I did, and showing my mum and dad. And two things happened there. One was there was one that I did, and it's the first time that I got a reaction from my mum and dad, and I think it was genuinely they found it quite funny. A very simple little story. It was a hedgehog out in the garden. I did loads of sketches about this hedgehog. Spiky, I think he was called, and he actually runs into this little sort of tunnel, a little pipe, and he says to himself, it's wet out there, and then all you can see is his little eyes, and it's all black in his little eyes. And then the next frame, there's another set of eyes, and you hear a voice saying, "Yes, it is," and then he says, and he's outside again, and it says, I'll get wet," and they actually found that quite funny. And you know, I can remember thinking, then they laughed even more at the other one I did. It was Mr. Funky. Mr. Funky went to a disco. Mr. Funky got into a fight. Mr. Funky again. I remember to this day because I found it. I've got it somewhere. I can't find it at the moment. And Mum and Dad really laughed at that. And again, I thought, they really think it's funny. And again, it wasn't until I actually years later reread them and found them and reread them that I realised why that admittedly very unfunny sketch, Mr. Funky goes to a disco, Mr. Funky gets into a fight, Mr. Funky again. That was it. It's because of my spelling. I actually spelled him Mr. Fucky. Mr. Fucky gets... So my mum and dad just was titting away, and I really thought, oh my God, I've got two good sketches here. That really worked. Anyway, so yeah, I've enjoyed comics, these sort of comics, for a long time. But then, as an adult, I got into a set around about the early 90s. I think it was, and it's the finish. And if you have not ever seen these, even if this is 2 years' time, you see this Gary Larson. You must get into Gary Larson. He is the funniest man in print. But you won't think so at first. These are some of his things. The little one sort of square photographs, drawings. A lot of reoccurring themes. But they are the funniest in the world. To the point where Tina stopped me actually reading them at night, because I'd go to bed, she'd be trying to get to sleep, and I would start reading them, and I would start laughing so loud that she said, "You've got to stop reading because I can't sleep, you're waking me up." And I said, "Well, I won't laugh again." So then I would hold myself, and she said, "It's still not working because the bed is rocking as you're going." So I'll show you some, and you I said you might not find them funny at first, and I didn't. I don't think it took me a couple of times. Right, here you go. Look at this one here. So they say quack. Beginning duck. And this one like. Okay, you guys. Have you had your chance? The horse has wanted another shot at it. But it's just. Ah. This isn't the ball. Look at this one here. This is there with his duck. They're called decoy ducks. Decoy women. But this one. Here comes another big one. Boy, and here we go.
These are my favourite, the ones at the dinghy. There's one where there's a bloke, two blokes in the dinghy, and the one bloke actually is pulling this box up onto the actual inside into the dinghy, and he says, "Well, it might come in useful." And on the box it says nails and tacks. There's so many, honestly, and I don't know how many books he did. He was American, and he was a daily newspaper. He did it, and we've got him in book form here. I've got to have about 12, 13. I think I've got all of them in the original sort of book. I think they came out, but they are really funny, really good. You know. So anyway, not much. Like I said, not much to show. I don't think I've much to show today either. We had one of our busiest days of the year. Well, the busiest day of the year, and one of the busiest days in the last 2 years, to be honest. Yesterday, and I will just be spending nearly all day restocking the shop. So I don't think I'm going to get anything done today. Hopefully, something tonight will be done, because that there will be dry, so I'll be able to get a bit done. Anyway, these waffles the last couple of days get longer, aren't they? So I am waffling, so I better say goodbye. Is that right? No, I am waffling, so it's time to say goodbye. I think that's better.